Hey, Golden.
We're about to start Reviewers Web.
Golden.
Yeah, let me change to push to talk.
3, 2.
All right, you're good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reviewers Web. This week we have the Heartswarming Club, episode 15 of season 8, which is described as, and oh dear God, my restream chat just disconnected. Hold on a second. I love you, rap. There we go. Which is described as it is heartswarming once again, and the students are gathering ready to go home to their families when some evildoer proceeds to ruin heartswarming for every pony, and the potential that none of them will get to go home arises. I have joining with me here Golden Fox and Jasper and Mastercode and Moon Knight Burb and Silverquill and Sunset and Bernie Critic, and I will let them introduce themselves.
That's you, Golden.
Oh, I thought it was okay. Well, yep. Hi, I'm Golden Fox. I review ponies, movies, and I stream video games.
Hey there, hi there, ho there, I'm the pizza pony who better to cook the thing than the thing, and I make comics and do audio stuffs and stuffs.
Hey guys, your race analyst here, Master Code. That's right, your super awesome stallion of the stars, here to rock and roll. Woo!
Hi everyone, I'm Moon Knight, and I basically do some covers. I review My Little Pony episodes and also some video games.
And I am the Silver Quill. I too do review videos and comics. I also am a chief promoter for Kentucky Fried Chicken because after enough of my puns, everyone's wanting fried chicken for some reason.
Hi, I'm Harmony Dancer or Sunset, whatever you want to call me. I do Let's Plays. I do artwork. I am a singer, and I am a voice actress. Let's have a party!
Wow, that was actually really, really good. I am the Brony Critic. I review fan content, a lot of fan fictions, fan material and videos, a lot of music. I also do a little bit of writing and voice acting on the side, and because every fandom needs a critic.
And I am Fiora the Tank Girl, the mostly facilitator and host, and I hope all of you are here to have a good time and talk about our craziness in which a certain griffin proceeds to cause mass trouble. So, Brony Critic, start us off. What is your initial thoughts?
Well, you know my opinion from the last episode with Discord the Massive Dick. Well, this episode showed us how you could do a jerk right. You know, Gallus is most definitely a jerk, but I totally get his mentality. I totally get the reasons he's doing things. And he's sympathetic. And that's the way this should go. That's the way this kind of story should be done. And I enjoyed it immensely. The amount of world building we get introduced to. I've been working on a timeline panel for the last couple of weeks now, doing a little collaborative thing, and this episode was huge for that because I've been trying to count down holidays, and Heartswarming, nice holiday. It's a holiday that happens quite often in this story, surprisingly enough. So, I got a great introduction to, more about these cultures and these characters. We're learning much more about them, and I enjoyed it a lot more. It was much more well-intentioned than last week's episode, which I think makes it a lot more refreshing to watch.
Welcome, son.
If I had to say a particular problem, it's actually kind of hard for me to find it, except that I don't get the... there's a part of me that's just wondering how the leaders of these foreign countries would feel about a leader of another country literally holding their children hostage. Oh, you can't go home to your holidays and your families because we're going to hold you over. I can't imagine that would actually turn out well. I think that's just a nitpick on my part, though.
Okay, well, that's an interesting question for an actual diplomat. Sunset Shimmer Sparkle, you're up.
That me? Okay, so this episode I thought was interesting. It was really interesting to see all the like how each of the different creatures celebrate the holiday. All the stories were really cute and funny. I especially like Yuna's and Ocelus's. Um, I felt bad for I'm bad with the names. The Griffin.
Gallus.
Gallus.
Gallus. I felt bad for Gallus. Know, like, with what he did, yes, it was bad, and but I kind of felt for him because my family's a little dysfunctional, to say the least, and just I get that. I'm done.
Alrighty, and I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I laughed aloud watching the changelings celebrate their first hearthwarming, and I enjoyed all the other stories, but I think the changelings stole the show for me. Uh, in terms of the characters, especially the student six, for a large chunk of the first half of the season, all we got to do was see them be victims of everyone else's inattention or quirks, and then they'd be shuffled off screen. This was really a key time where we could see them be victims of someone else's plotting, but then how do they deal with it? And they aren't all squeaky clean. Oh, well, I'll get along. Especially Sandbar. It's like, dude, stop blaming Ocellus. So more on that later. But I just loved it for the reactions. I loved it for how the characters interacted. And I agree, world building, getting to know these cultures better. There is, however, a double meaning with that, because this episode also relies on what I view as a negative trait within My Little Pony. Consistently, we're presented with the image that if you're born into a certain species, your characteristics are defined. Griffins are instantly jerks. Dragons are instantly greedy and cruel. And I believe even the comic author Jeremy Wheatley pointed out this very toxic, unintentional but toxic message that, you know, birth determines personality. And I see that still on display here, and I'm less a fan of that. But more to talk about that later.
Okay, so I thought this episode was more enjoyable than the last ones. I wasn't really a fan of, well, the Discord one. I liked it, but I feel like here we get to see like a different point of view. It's not just because, oh, he felt just suddenly left out because of the school or something. It's more because of a personal feeling that, oh, I'm going to be alone at Christmas. I don't have anyone to be with. I like being around my friends, but they're going away, so I'm staying alone. Or I'm just not going to be into a really good, well, media or place to be in celebrations. Uh, like Silver Quill said, I also think that the junk six they're called, I don't know. The students, in fact, haven't really been used that much in this season, despite the fact that it was supposed to be about the school and the main six being teachers. But I really like this episode. It really has some really funny elements and funny jokes. But yeah, I just wish that we didn't have to wait for like half or more than half of the season to watch the students getting involved in something different or something more important than just being in the background or learning something that maybe we've already seen, or I don't know, something that it's not really that important.
All right, so I'm gonna come out and say it. I think this is probably the best episode of the season, from just a pure writing standpoint and visual standpoint. One of the things that I like most is this is the 5th time we've covered this freaking holiday, Hearthwarming Eve, and I like how each time there's a different aspect. Where what was it, Hearthbreakers and Hearthwarming Tale? Excuse me. Heartwarming Tale and Hearthbreakers, they were more down to earth, and we got to see expand a little bit more about how ponies express their different cultures, how they celebrate the season. With this one, we actually got to see six creatures, six different cultures experience that. But I think one of my favorite aspects, and I'll expand upon this in the next section, is the framing device. I think the framing device was absolutely ingenious. There was a lot of great humor, especially with the changeling. Changeling was probably the best aspect of the episode, with them misunderstanding. But along with that, even though not just the changelings, but throughout all the different traditions, even though they may seem odd or different, they still have those core values of family and togetherness and love and friendship. So I think this is probably, yeah, I will say this is probably the best episode of the season.
Characterization! Honest to goodness, characterization! I mean, I never hated the students. Since I thought it was cool getting to and some focus on the other creatures. It's just that until now, they barely did anything like they said earlier. But now we got this whole thing with them explaining their cultures, and it's great. It's beautiful. It's development. Also, I am convinced that Acellus was created just for the sake of making us lose our feelings. Because the precious and they don't get the holidays and just Ivan.
Well, I'll come out and say it. I absolutely adore this episode. I don't know how well this would level up to the other heartwarming episodes. I'm not exactly sure how there are 5. I know there's 4, according to what Massacre said. There's Hearthbreakers, Heartswarming Eve, Heartswarming Tale, and this episode. But either way, like what everybody else said, I love that we expand on how the different cultures celebrate heartwarming. Unfortunately, it's kind of playing on the same boat with what their cultures are, based on what Silverquill said, that dragons have their own brutality. Griffins have their own pride issues and greed issues, and the yaks are very destructive. But it's still nice to hear that we hear their perspectives on how they celebrate whatever that holiday is, because some people perceive things differently. So it's nice to get that out there. Also, I do agree with everybody else on the same page about Ocellus's Carol story, that they're taking things way too literally. And like, just thinking about it, I could just like I can't even think straight. It was too much. So with that being said, I still enjoy this episode. I don't know how well it levels up to the others. I'll have to think over that within time, but it does work differently compared to the other heartwarming episodes. So I'm going to end my piece there.
Well, so this is my favorite episode of this season so far. Because it deals with something that's a very real world issue. For me in particular, I went and looked this up while we were watching the episode. According to the U.S. Board of Education, 38.1% of college-age students do not go home for Christmas. And the reason that's important is because when the show started, it was for 8 to 10-year-olds. Those 8 to 10-year-olds are now in college for their first or their third year, and a third of them don't get to go home for Christmas. I don't get to go home for Christmas. I spend my Christmas with whatever friends will take me in. So this is kind of speaking to a more direct real-world issue for me, is that what am I going to do for Christmas? And here we have Gallus, who also, to me, this gets revealed another very important political issue. Grandpa Gruff obviously was like, oh, look, I have an orphan. I could throw the orphan in this friendship school, and if it doesn't work out, I can go, ha, it doesn't work because I didn't befriend an orphan. Or if it does work, I don't have an orphan anymore. So those are my initial thoughts. So,
Comment. I have none.
Jasper, do you have a does anybody have a theme they want to bring up directly about the episode?
Can I say something?
Sure.
I think the theme you touched right now, it's like really. I didn't really like sat down to think about it, but now that you say that's something that's very true. Uh, there's a ton of, I don't know, children that grew up with this and now they're alone, and even if you don't like specifically like sit or stay on your college for holidays, even something like, I don't know, not having friends around or having family around, that's also, I think, a theme that it's like maybe it's touching a little bit, since, well, he wouldn't have any friends around.
I see Silver Quill, and then I see Jasper.
Well, I think it does touch on sort of a sense of nerve. One of the traits about Christmas is that we're bombarded, in a sense, by all these themes of family and goodwill, and yet if you spend enough time in stores hearing the Christmas Carol music, it actually has the inverse effect. Uh, Too much of that bombardment can really wear down on people's spirits, and I think Gallus represents that feeling. Everybody's going on about spending time with their families, and no one even is aware of what he's facing. So it does come off as very sympathetic that he would go to an extreme and regret it later. I think often we tend to criticize a character for an action in the moment, but really good characters also have failings and frailties.
I I kind of really have to agree with that one. Is if he's a good character, like you've said, he does have his failings and his frailties, and I think he's really showing them. Jasper.
The scary part, I think so far, Gallus is the most developed of the students.
I'm not sure about that yet.
So far. So far, that's what I said.
I was just gonna first off, Gallus is my favorite of the student six. I will say that. But yeah, I'm completely behind the decision he made, because we don't even know how long he's been an orphan. He could have been an orphan his whole entire life, and Grandpa Gruff have just been kind of maybe he's just hey, here's some food or here's some shelter during the night, then go out and do something else. We don't know what that could be, but the fact is, I'm behind him, because if there was any chance where I'm at this school of friendship, I have all these great new friends, but oh no, it's that time of the year again, and now I'm gonna miss my friends again, and I'm gonna be all alone. All alone in Griffinstone. It's like it's got to be something I can do. It's like if you had that one chance of it's between like doing something bad or that holding on to that little niche of happiness, I can perfectly understand what he did. So yeah, I'm behind him all the way.
Silver Quill.
But on a slightly different topic of a theme for this episode, I'd like to propose thwarted expectations, because that's where a lot of the humor comes from.
Are you meaning like you expected like different holidays for them, or?
Well, let's break it down bit by bit. You've got the changelings. I love the wordplay they do. They use all these classic phrases for the holidays, and then they do the most literal interpretation. I was laughing so hard. And then you have the yaks singing, and you expect, okay, we've had carols, carols, carols. Now we'll get some real song. Nope. You get yaks just doing this is the song that never ends. Just goes on and on, my friends. And then probably the biggest subversion is the tale of scales. And oh, this heartwarming tale of dragons taking pity on the no death to the weak king. And I find that humor at its funniest. It plays on our expectations and basically thwarts them, and the laughter is almost a reaction to just breaking that tension.
So I saw myself Moon Knight and a couple other people light up, so I'll go as quick as I can. I just realized that the yak theme that they sing is actually to the tune of the song that never ends. Thanks. Now that's stuck in my head.
Wait,
Aha!
really?
My terrible singing strikes once again.
All right. So Moon Knight lit up a few times, and then Golden, Brony, and Jasper.
Who's going first?
That order. Moon Knight.
Right. So about the holidays, yeah, I think it's, I think that's the funny part. Also, I think the part of Sandbar is kind of you're expecting this interesting like story about, I don't know, something really happening to that puppet or whatever it was, and then it just ends abruptly, and it's like, okay, that ended like that. Another thing, it's like, yes, also Gallus is also one of my favorite characters. Like, I think Master said, but I think that even with Galus's, I think that he's kind of one of the most one of the students that's going to learn more about friendship than maybe the others. I mean, obviously the dragons are probably just mean and furious about everything, but I think Gallus being like that, he can spread a little bit more of, I don't know, friendship, being with others, not being really grumpy, because, well, we know that Griffins have been like that since forever, because even the king couldn't like control them properly.
Okay. Golden.
Okay, so for my favorite and least favorite of all the tales, I believe I said this earlier. My favorite has to go with Ocelus's. I thought it was absolutely hilarious, but it's also a bit of a tie between hers and Gallus's. I mean, those names are going to be very similar. They end in us or lus, but no, because I love that with Gallus's, it creates a dramatic difference and showing how some people really got to be grateful with what they live with, because some people deal with what's worse out there. I'm not going to take this up to a political perspective, as Foyora mentioned, but it's a good tie between the two. My least favorite, and I do have to pick a least favorite here, I would have to say the dragons, because while Silver Quill does point out that it's a good laugh to break the tension, I really can't stand it when they're constantly making dragons just completely brutal just for the sake of being brutal. It's become very one-dimensional.
Okay. Jasper.
Something someone actually pointed out while we were initially watching. How long have they been at that school?
That's a good question, because Fluttershy has 9 months in a row as best professor, and I think Rainbow Dash and Applejack still have put students in most possible danger, mortal danger.
That and Ocellus mentioned how Twilight taught her about heartwarming last year. So does that mean they've been at that school for almost a year now?
No, I think
Let's do Silver Quill and then Moon Knight on that one.
Well, time in this show has always been very flexible. For no matter how much time has passed, I guarantee you Pound and Pumpkin Cake still look like babies, as does Flurry Heart. But what I find interesting is that this at least confirms that the events of To Where and Back Again were at least a year ago. Which I find interesting, in that when people talk about Starlight Glimmer, we don't always know how much time has passed as she reconsiders her approach to things.
yeah, I think like Silver says, time is kind of it's kind of difficult to like count in the series. But I think also is referring to when they changed from, you know, the ugly, not the ugly, but like the old changeling design to the new colorful skill one. I think that's what she was trying to say. Like they were introduced to this new culture, and maybe they got to know this is heartwarming. But also, there's another fact that we don't really know when the school like semester or the year started, because it's not a regular school, so it could have just started like, I don't know, in February, in any month, so it's kind of difficult to say. But yeah, it's going to be more than 9 months.
Burning Critic.
Yeah, I've been looking into all of those different things, and I've been counting down the different the different heartswarmings, and we've had 4 heartswarming episodes, but looks to at least be about 5 different references to the heartswarming holiday. Yeah, we had the one in Heartswarming Eve, we had the one in Hearth's Breakers, we had a Heartswarming Tale, and then we have the 2 that are mentioned in this one. So the problem is I can't tell quite whether or not that the one that's mentioned in this one a year ago is a reference to the same one of the Heartswarming Tale. And that's sort of where the big confusion is coming in. So we've either had 4 or 5 Heartswarmings in the show so far. So that's about 4 or 5 years.
Does anybody else have a comment for this one?
I'll go
Yes,
real
I
quick.
do.
Yeah. See, that's why I was confused earlier when I said, this is like the 4th or 5th time we've had a heartswarming episode. That's what I was confused about. But anyway, I'm gonna go back to what we said, and I'll quickly go through. Excuse me. I'll quickly go through my favorite interpretations. My favorite. Jeez, I can't breathe today. My favorite ones were. It's a tie between the changing one just for its clever wordplay, and I actually did like the dragon one, just Smolder's story, because, and this is a question for all you guys. If not, that's completely fine. But did anyone else get an All About Eve vibe from Smolder's story?
Not that I know of.
I don't get the reference.
Nor do I.
You have bewildered us.
Okay, never mind. It's okay. Never mind. If I go through, it'll take too long. It's an old movie from the 1940s. It's a great movie, but never mind. Then moving on to next topic.
I actually wanted to add something about the whole time span thing. I think this is also the result of this is something that not many people address, but I started to notice it based on the various interviews that I was involved with the show writers. And this is that whenever the show writers are working on anything within the episodes, they don't pay attention to each other's scripts. Most of which they're freelance writers, arguably, and sometimes even these new writers who are currently taking over the show, they sometimes don't know much of the older material, or they just take what's only on the surface and not looking in the full details. And continuity becomes more of an issue within time. Like immediately from the beginning of the series, there was an issue with continuity, and that's because, again, all these script writers, they're just writing scripts at the same time and not looking at each other's scripts and looking over any continuity stuff. It's because at the surface, it's perceived as a sitcom slice of life and not a continuing story. So I think that's something to take in mind when it comes to the time span of whenever the school was open or whatnot.
I would just like to point out that whenever anyone mentions continuity in the context of the show, I am owed a quarter. Golden, you owe me 75 cents.
Really?
Continuity.
I'm surprised that at a con he still had the soundboard ready to go.
Can I get that soundboard? I want that soundboard now.
I would like one too. That's hilarious.
So does anybody have anything else they wanna come out with before I go, and then we start taking viewer questions? Just turn on your mic. Okay, let's do Burning Critics, since Silver Quill just made us all die laughing.
Yeah, so as far as my favorite and least favorite stories in this particular roundup, I'd have to say that my favorite would be tied between Ocellus and probably Gallus. Ocellus because of the humor, but Gallus because his had the heart. Like, his is really where the heart, the center of the story is. He is the protagonist of the story. We just don't know it throughout most because it's a mystery episode. But as far as the least favorite, Sandbar. I can't believe no one's talked about Sandbar's story yet because it's so stupid. It's weird that the pony is the least interesting character in this entire new group. Sandbar is almost a non-entity throughout the entire series. I had to look up his name because I couldn't remember him. He is the pony equivalent of white bread, as I was saying earlier. Very little actual value and mostly bland.
I think that's why it was glossed over, because it has something that not many people would take seriously, whereas everybody else talks about the actual holiday and not, oh no, I almost lost a doll.
Well, I think when we see the student six, the point is that Sandbar is something we all know already. Like, we already know what the Pony Holiday is. We already know how they celebrate it. We already know everything special they do for it. And a lot of the time, the way that stuff happens with him is mostly just he's more our avatar or anchor, in the sense that he's the thing that we know and know is how he's going to react because we've seen what ponies do. When we see the other five, we have no idea what they're actually going to be up to. Silver Quill, unless somebody has another comment.
Well, I'm actually going to guess I'll do a twofer because I was going to talk about Sandbar before Brony Critic mentioned him. But with the story of, oh, my doll nearly fell in the fire, again, that's the humor of defied expectations. You're expecting some grand tale of a true miracle, and it just turns out to be ho-hum. The thing is, it's at the very end of the episode, so, and the last story, so we're kind of wise to the joke at that point in all its various forms. It's run its course. But the thing about Sandbar is I agree that he is sort of a proxy of our familiar world interacting with these new characters. In a lot of ways, I view him as the Applejack of the group. He is the more balanced center that allows the rest of the group to be eccentric or quirky. And much like Applejack, he goes underappreciated as a result. However, in this episode, I kept wondering, why did he all out of the blue start blaming Ocellus? Even to have that last joke, you mean it's not Ocellus? With her little, you did not just say that look. And this may be myself assigning more meaning to it than even the writers intend. But until recently, changelings were the threat. They were probably the most well-known threat to Equestria. And even though Sandbar is a very mellow guy, even though he's studying at the School of Friendship, I think he also represents that ponies, for all they claim to know about friendship, they're still vulnerable to bias, prejudice, and making assumptions. So he's there to represent the pony's fallibility just as much as be our anchor.
And anyway, I'll go back to what I was talking about earlier in my intro, the framing device. This episode, they could have easily just had all the student six just, gathered around the fireplace, and each of them discusses their own cultures. Like, hey, what's your culture celebrate like? And what's your culture? And da-da-da, and just go through the whole rigmarole like that. But no, they actually went the extra step, and they actually imparted a mystery element, which I think was fantastic. Because if it was just like that, like just them, telling their stories around the campfire, around the fireplace, that would have been fine. But this whole mystery element adds a level of conflict. It allows the characters to have more interaction with each other. And excuse me. And I think that was a much better path to take than just the rudimentary. Oh, this is our culture. This is our culture. Okay, time for school's over. Bye. I think this was a great idea.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think it's mostly what makes this episode so great is how it is framed. Because we've seen episodes where, it's all of them kind of expositing on the world around a campfire. There was that episode last season where it was what is it, Rainbow, Applejack, and Rarity all getting together and telling stories about the original six, like the old guard or whatever they were called. And it's really interesting. They could have done that, and I think it could have still been good. But what they did that worked really, really well here is they framed it as a mystery. They kind of staged it in a similar vein to, honestly, when I was looking at it, the thing it reminded me of was almost Murder on the Orient Express. A bunch of people stuck in a room together trying to figure out who did what by telling their stories. It's kind of staged like an Agatha Christie mystery, and we learn more about the characters as a result. And I thought that was rather refreshing.
Moon Knight.
About the refreshing thing, because it's also not your typical. It's kind of your typical, but it's not your typical Christmas episode, because we've seen in the past that they've done the Christmas play. It's also, I think it's called A Christmas Tale, or the one with Scrooge and all of the elements that we already know. I think this one is a little bit more new, a little bit more refreshing, and it also has a little bit more of heart that we've seen a little bit in some of the episodes, like To Change a Changeling or something like that one, where there's like some feelings mixed in between. But I think that's also a good point, that it's something that we haven't seen before. Talking about the stories, I'm really I'm really glad that no one's talking about Silver Streams, because I think that's kind of the more generic-ish one, because they just spent like one day. I think it was like they was one day on the land, one day on the sea, and then the other day like normally, and then just Queen Noble gives out presents. I think that's kind of like the most generic-ish, and also I still don't see the point on Storm King. I think his other design was more like intimidating, but I really don't see why they feared him.
So basically, you're kind of addressing the Storm King on the same issue in principle that people had with Cadence and Shining Armor, in that they were introduced so late, there was no mention of them until up to that point.
No, I'm saying like in the art book, like they had a different design for the Storm King, and also the story of the Storm King and the movie itself is kind of like similar to another material, something else that I've seen. But like my point is, what was really intimidating them so much about? I mean, it was literally just a monkey. It was just the staff that was giving him power. So without the staff, or before he had the staff, like what was really like the point of him? And I think I saw somewhere that they were going to touch that some more, but in the story, it's kind of the main point of the holiday. So I don't know.
For the Storm King, I think it's more they were afraid of his army. The one thing he had going for him in the movie was sheer force of numbers and soldiers, aside from Grover. But really, he's just the face to an empire or a conquering force. There's nothing hugely exceptional about him as a villain.
Welcome to the army of Europe.
Here. And hey, Sunset, you're being all quiet over there, so I'm gonna kind of put the spotlight on you. Favorite heartwarming?
My favorite heartwarming story was Solace's. I think most of us agree on that. I thought it was friggin' adorable. My least favorite, probably Sandball, because I mean, he has the same voice actor as Flash Sentry, and we all know how he turned out.
Harsh.
That's a good point.
She's got claws, and I love her for it.
So, I have actually more than a page of questions for us now, posed by the chat. We're gonna start. Oh dear God, please no Golden Fox. No Bliss Sentry. we've already talked about the holiday points of view and what we found interesting about them. Um, First question is from AFL Studio 300. Why does MLP keep having Christmas at the wrong time of year?
I can answer that.
Go for it.
When was the last time MLP had an episode during Christmas for the past couple of years?
Like airing or
Airing.
I think I remember that, and it's very specific because it was actually the first episode of My Little Pony I saw, and it was actually on Christmas. It was the first one, but I think it was on 2011, 20. I think it was 2011 when I saw it. So that's like the last time they've actually aired it on the day that it is, and that's the first one that I saw, and Lesson Zero.
So, to point out too, MLP used to be at around the fall area, and then it would finish around spring. Now they aired in spring and they ended in fall. They can't air an episode during Christmas at that point. That's why they have to air those episodes at a time when it isn't Christmas.
That, and for some reason,
Hello?
it's because I saw Jasper. That, and for some reason they also have the holiday thing that they're doing this year, the perfect gift or something. So I don't know why they could have just waited for that one too, if they were going to tie them in. But yeah, they're mostly ending on spring or summer because, well, the early airings and stuff right now.
I'd like to counter that question with another question. Why does Walmart put out their Halloween stuff in the middle of August?
To prepare in advance, it's a marketing strategy.
I actually think that might be a similar situation with this. If they release the episodes at this point, then these episodes could be released on DVD as a season package around Christmas time when they know kids are going to want to buy them. So they might actually release the heartwarming episodes now so that the heartwarming episodes can be bought, on DVD around Christmas time.
That's actually a good answer because they've I've seen when I go to like stores and stuff, they actually released like I think it's a pony for every season. I think they released it in like December or something. But yeah, continuing with Jasper's question, why is freaking Dia de Muertos stuff already? I'm already eating the freaking bread, so yeah.
Okay. Next question we have here is quote. Do we think Sambar is racist against changelings, or that changelings directly did something to him?
I think that's something that's inherent to ponies.
Think ponies, Jasper?
I just think Sandbar is stoned 24/7.
Silverquill.
It's hard to say. I think he had a bias, and there are moments where the past and what you've heard can blind you to the present. I don't know if I go full on racist because we've got Chancellor Naysay to represent that. But I think it's a blind spot for him. And hopefully he acknowledges his mistake and learns from it rather than just leave it as a one-off joke.
Yeah, kind of going off what Silver said earlier. Yeah, he was right. The changelings, they were the greatest threat to Equestria. They almost took over Canterlot. Dragons and yaks, we know about their brutish nature, but we never actually see them actually attacking like kingdoms or something, directly, in this timeline.
Well,
But,
the yaks declared war and party pooped.
And the dragons actually raids or terrorizes villages, as Smolder pointed out.
But I mean, directly, actually seen and I know it. You can't really show this. I mean, direct conflict. That's more what I was going along the line.
What would Pony War actually look like? Would it be like straight out of the to there and back again? I think it was.
Mass murder, genocide on all sides. Horse against horse, burbs against burbs. Blood and guts raining from the heavens.
Suddenly,
That's just
I
the opening.
really
Verbs against
want.
verbs.
Suddenly, I really want a season of World War Pony. Go ahead, Bernie Critic and then Silver Quill.
I've actually been thinking about that very same question. Is what would for especially for like writing good fan fiction that would actually make use of ponies? Like, what do you do when it's with an all cavalry army? Like, what is cavalry to a pony? Things like that kind of question, and for writing those kinds of battle strategies. It's really interesting, and I think the episode you're talking about is also called Cutie Remark. No, not the Cutie Map.
Curie map.
Yeah, that one.
Cutie Remark or Cutie Map.
Something like that. It's one of those two. And I think to speak on the sandbar the sandbar racism issue, I think the answer might actually be a little bit more benign, and it's simply because Sandbar's only major interaction in the episode was with Ocellus. He would make comments to Ocellus at the very beginning, talking about their holidays. He's the one who begins the discussion on the holidays, and he engages it with Ocellus. So I think it was actually just a continuation of those conversations he was having with her from the beginning, spilling out over into the conflict. I think it's honestly just the writers didn't realize the subtext of having him getting on the Changeling's case.
Well, it is the cutie remark. So the time traveling, where basically Pony War consists of the climax to Blazing Saddles. They hit Buddy. Come on, girls. Slap him, slap him, slap him.
Why is that too accurate right now? What? I'm gonna hug you harder next week now.
She's probably gonna hug me right around the neck.
She does that from time to time.
I mean, occasionally at the fast food restaurant, they stare at us kind of weird. I go, and everybody goes, "Oh, it's perfectly fine."
You get recognized or something?
But I did also want to follow up on the idea of the changelings as a threat versus griffins and dragons. With raids and troublemakers, those are individuals. Before the Storm King rolled into town, the Changeling Empire or Hive or whatever term they use was the only unified force that seemed to go against Equestria. That was the army at the gates, and because they could shapeshift, they could actually walk past your gate and you never notice. So I think they were, until Starlight and crew and Thorax created the Reformation, they were the greatest threat. Too bad for the Storm King. He actually seems kind of tame by comparison.
Yeah, I think about the battle formations, I think that may have been something that happened in the past, because, changelings have existed for, I don't know, many years before. Dragons have existed for many years before. So maybe in that process of unification, because, Heartswarming is about, all these pony races uniting and getting together to form Equestria, basically. So maybe when that, because I think it's happened in history before, when a new, country or something is forming, it's common to have other enemies or someone trying to get the power from you or just taking over. So maybe that's from where they take those battle formations. The thing about the changelings, yeah, it could be that, or it could be that actually Sandbar was, I don't know, because everyone was cocooned with when the to wear him back again happened. So I mean, being inside a cocoon, I think it's not really a good experience, especially if Sandbar wasn't really that old, if he was a young Cole or something.
Okay. So I have a couple of rapid-fire easy questions. Would anyone here adopt Gallus?
Yes, me.
In a heartbeat.
Yes.
Yes, I
Oh,
would.
why not?
I would.
I could barely take care of myself. I don't think I could afford a griffin.
Now, the second question here is, does anyone think that Gilda and Gabby are siblings or related since they were breaking bread for cart swarming?
I have a feeling that Gabby may be just as much of an orphan as Gallus would be.
Griffinstone is full of orphans. Nobody gets a parent. Everybody dies.
Dark, Joey.
So, Jasper, are you saying firmly that most of Griffinstone's parents went to Disneyland?
Yes, and they're all working on the Small World ride, and we all know how well that's gonna go, being torn down for 10
So that's what happened to my parents.
No, the way I perceive it, it's more of just the same thing of just not caring for each other. As Gallus pointed out, that once they have a kid, they're not going to care, and that kid is going to, like, I don't know, just live on their own.
I think it may be like that because I mean if they were like a powerful kingdom and then they just went by themselves because well the crown was stolen and everything, I think it may be like Golden Fox said, and it kind of happens with Dragon's books where like they have the children and then you're on your own, go fly away or something. So maybe they just don't care anymore. Maybe they don't know even who their parents are from the beginning. So and like Gal said, like Grandpa Gruff isn't really like anyone's grandpa. He's just called like that because everyone calls him like that.
He's just there.
He's just there to be a grumpy old fart.
He's just
Not my
standing
dad.
there, menacingly.
Silverquill?
Well, it's kind of funny that I never got the impression that Gabby, Gilda, or that the very young Griffin were related. I kind of figured it's just sort of, well, we're supposed to try and do this, let's do it. But that begs the question, what is it about Gallus that excluded him from that group? Even if it is, I hate to use the phrase pity party, but it's sort of, it's just odds and ends under the same house. Though I would also point out, a holiday where you get together, try to be nice, complain about the food, and just try not to get everyone mad at dinner. That's not a Christmas analogy. That's Thanksgiving.
He's blue, that's why he got excluded.
Okay. So the next question is, this one is straight at Silverquill. Do you have a hippogriff form?
Yes.
What kind of question is that?
I think
And the
they
next
meant
one-
to
the
say
next one-
sea pony.
The last one, the second one behind that is, if so, do you have a sea pony?
Welcome to the army.
I kind of figured it was, do you have a movie form? I mean, technically, I have a hippogriff form. I was hippogriffing before it was cool, y'all.
So you're the hipster griff now.
Darn straight.
Oh!
We really have to barbecue it now.
I know why I'm laughing.
Shoot me! Shoot me now!
We know you have a sound effect for this, Silverquill. Use it.
Oh well, there's always.
Oh my God! Seriously?
Is that the Joker gun or something?
Oh, sorry. Was that a downvote?
That sounds like a board game.
But in the answer, do I have a sea pony form? The answer is maybe.
Should we do?
You know, if you still want to do that thing together, maybe I should make us do it from the river.
Oh my, the van down by the river?
Exactly. That way, you're already in the river, so you can reveal if you have a sea pony or not.
Well, I haven't designed it yet, but I figure if I ever became a sea pony, I would. Well, if I became an aquatic form, it wouldn't be a sea pony; it'd be like a kraken. The duck.
Release the Kraken!
Silver Kraken.
What's cracking, Kraken?
So the next question is, why isn't there a zebra at the school?
That's a question even I asked.
The
They're too
reason's
far
prob-
away?
The reason's fairly simple. How hard is it to rhyme all of the dialogue?
They don't need to rhyme.
You can't
think
just go
they're-
around and rhyme all the time.
I think they're just
Okay,
too
man,
far
that's it.
away. Maybe they're too far away from the school or something.
I would like to find out their reasoning because, me personally, yeah, I get it might be hard to make everything rhyme, but I'm pretty sure that's just Sakura and not the entirety of all zebras.
Well,
Because if
that's
it's
how
the
I.
entirety of all zebras, I'm going to stare and go, how is this even possible?
Well, that's the biggest problem we have with the zebras. Is the same problem, when we were during our panel when we were talking about, Iron Will. Zecora is the only zebra we see in the entire series. So we have no idea if the qualities and traits she has are unique to her or are literally just something that, that all zebras possess. In the same way, we don't know if Iron Will is like every other Minotaur or just Iron Will. So it's impossible for us to know really the reason why. I'm willing to bet that the reason why they haven't put a zebra is because we're expecting them to act like Zecora. And that would be hard to create.
It's very simple. It's just like Dragonheart. She is the last one of her kind.
I don't really think I would perceive other zebras in the same fashion of how Zecora would be, though.
I think maybe the idea that I had isn't like too far fetched, or maybe it's they just don't want to put the zebra in. But what if Sakura and other creatures are like from another continent? Because like we know Equestria, but what is like outside of actually Equestria, not just the Dragonlance?
I'm really wondering if we're going to see the opening to Season 9 is going to be a zebra arrives at the school.
I'd be open to that.
That'd be awesome.
All the zebras.
So I have one question here left. How exactly does AJ or Sandbar allow the others to act?
I don't understand the question.
I think that's for Silver because of what he said about Applejack.
Yes. Well, it's much the same as Applejack. Actually, the question is, how do Sandbar and Applejack do this? You have this group of eccentrics, and they play off one another. They come into conflict. They butt heads, especially as they did in the season premiere. Sandbar and Applejack are the ones who bring usually a moderating voice. It's why Sandbar's reaction this episode startled me in many ways. But they're the ones who say, hey, take it easy. It's fine if Yona just enjoys her culture, or hey, how's it going? He's the middle ground of the group, much like Applejack, who, Pinky can jump off a cliff in a fit of energy, and it'll be Applejack who's there to catch her with a lasso. The others can come into conflict about their various cultures, and Sandbar will be the one saying, hey, let's chill out. Again, except for this episode. In that way, I think their role is usually to be the group's even keel, so everyone else can go just a little bit more to the extremes. But then it also becomes very noticeable when you make them the really unreasonable ones.
Anybody have anything they want to add to that?
What was the question again?
How does Sandbar or AJ allow the others to act?
That's the thing, though, because we didn't really have much screen time with the students throughout this season. I can't really say too much in comparison to what Applejack does.
I think that's a good point. That I think we said it from the beginning, and others said it. Like, this season was supposed to be about the school, but it's been. I feel like it's mostly about the main six, which I mean, okay, they're the main characters, but if you're going to open a school and you're going to be focusing on it, then focus on it. Try to make them more involved in it and develop their characters more. Because if then it happens that Sandbar is a blank slate. We don't really know much about him, and the same for maybe the other characters aside from Gallus here, where we know that he's been an orphan, but aside from that, we don't really know it much as well the other characters.
This is a bit of a similar issue that I had with season 4. In the premiere, we were introduced to the box, but we were never given much detail about the box until the season finale.
Yeah, it's also the Explore Equestria or whatever theme they had. I think it was in the 4th or 5th season, and they didn't really went outside Equestria. It was just like I think it was like Manhattan or something, but it wasn't really like outside of their comfort zone. And I would actually like to see like the movie, like I think it was a jungle that they cut out. I would actually like to see that part more than any of the other cities that we've already seen like hundreds of times.
I kind of
just one last thing. So another reason again why I like this episode was because, again, this is really the first time. There's only been a few episodes where the students just got to interact with each other. I mean, there was the season opener, which it established their characters, established their personalities. That was good. Most of the time, however, this season, they're usually just working off the main 6. It's like, all right, students, now this is our next lesson. Let's watch as Rarity and Applejack and learn a friendship lesson. This is one of the few instances this season that they actually got to interact and work off each other, which is a systemic problem that's been this whole entire season where we haven't gotten much of the students. But again, this is why I praise this episode.
Oh no, like I feel on the same level there. Like I even mentioned that when I reviewed School Days.
Well, first, now you've got me envisioning Sandbar with like silver cake glaze on his mouth, screaming, "Witness me!" But actually, I just wanted to respond to a comment. A person saying, "I'm not sure I've really seen Applejack play the role Silver describes of being the even keel, or perhaps a voice to balance the others out." I'd point to episodes like Feeling Pinky Keen, Suited for Success. Fast forward a little bit to more recent seasons, you have Simple Ways. And basically anytime we're at... Oh, and most recently, the main attraction... No, Pony Plays, where Celestia was a bad actress.
Horseplay.
Horseplay, thank you. It's those roles that are often ignored or overlooked where Applejack is just saying, this is what we need to do to find a solution. And a lot of the time she gets ignored, but she is the voice trying to get the group on track. And I think Sandbar can be that. But I agree we haven't gotten to see them do a lot, but there are elements of that character there. It's just there, but I think they're also very easy to overlook due to a lack of participation.
Okay, so apparently the stream couldn't hear me because I pressed my mute button and at the same time I pressed my push to talk button. So I was saying that Sandbar acts more like the pony witness, or even the witness of everything, as the audience's avatar more than an actual developed character. It's like it's like placeholder character here. Good examples, terrible story, but a good example of this is Bella from Twilight, or another good example is not Hermione, Brain. God, it's one of the Harry Potter characters. It's one of the Harry Potter characters that's literally just there as the avatar or witness for the reader, and they're not there for anything else. And the author and Rowling's even said this, and my brain just had like a massive brain fart.
Ron?
Male or female?
Ron Weasley?
Ron, yes, Ron. Oh, I wanted to say Hermione. No, it's Ron. Ron has he up until the very end, he has almost no personality and no real character development. He's kind of there.
I was kind of being sarcastic with that response. Oh,
If you actually like read the books, he's more there than anything else. And then the last 2 books, he has some sort of change and major development. And I'm just like,
I've only
wait,
seen the movies.
wait, was there a person here till now? And there wasn't. There honestly was not a person there until the last couple books.
Poor Rob.
I don't have any other questions other than apparently Mary Quill is now the merging of Silver Quill and Mary Sue.
Eh,
The horror! The horror! The pink!
But do you guys have any final comments you want to give?
I enjoyed this episode quite a lot, despite a few little hiccups here and there. So,
I actually had a comment in regards to your statement on Ron, in that in the first movie, Ron was so replaceable that in the book that role was originally Neville. That they could absolutely have switched the 2 roles together and it wouldn't have changed anything in the first movie.
Told you.
Anyway, overall, overall thoughts. This is a fantastic episode, best episode of the season. Great writing, great comedy. Just a overall fantastic, great episode.
Sunset.
I enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to see what we do next week.
Anybody else want to weigh in before we start closing out?
I just have one very important question. Does Spike ever get his bow tie?
That's a good question.
I think it was covered in Grimace splooge, so...
God.
It was covered in gack.
So,
I have started a new petition.
Silver.
I have
So-
started a new
I kind of actually imagine that's what Grimace sounded like when he
Oh my god!
Down. Not safe for Blissey. Now we all know how
Lizzie's
Blissey's
not
here.
even
Not
here.
safe for
Not
Blissey.
safe for Harmony.
Welcome to
Come
the
on.
After
Wasn't
Night
this supposed to be-
Roundtable.
Wasn't this supposed to be PG?
In the
Not
meantime,
It's the After Night
in the
table.
meantime, I have been Fiora. I am the host here, and I am the one with the professor hat. If you're wondering which avatar is mine, I would also like to thank Shoujo, Lightning Bliss, DeWilstonator, and his lovely fiance. Yes, these are the people who are not here this week that we will hope will be here on the 8th on our next broadcast, in which we will be taking a look at episode 16. Which someone please remind me what episode 16 is again.
I think it's the rainbow one.
Give me a bit. I get it.
Okay.
Friendship University.
Friendship University,
Oh,
yes. We'll be talking
no.
about
No.
Friendship University. Now, ladies and gentlemen in the
And here we
chat,
are.
don't leave yet. I do have one little final event for you guys. In the meantime, I will let everyone outro themselves. So, Brony Critic, if you don't mind starting.
All right, everybody. I am the Brony Critic. You guys can check me out here on YouTube. I also have a film fiction channel, but I don't really have a whole lot of content on there just yet. I'm still in the process of working on it. I do a lot of video reviews, mostly on fan content, fan fictions, music, and the like. I also do some voice acting on the side and some writing.
Welcome to the army of Yule.
Sunset.
I have been Harmony Dancer, or Sunset, whatever you want to call me. Like I said, I will see you guys next Friday for the next installment of my Bratz Forever Diamonds playthrough over on my YouTube channel. And hopefully soon I will have some more artwork on my DeviantArt. And we'll keep you all updated on my Tumblr and my Twitter. Yee!
Fried chicken, I mean Silver Quill.
Yes, I may very well be. Well, you fine folks can find me on the YouTubes. You can find me on DeviantArt, all under Silver Quill. I post comic reviews on Equestria Daily every Wednesday. Also do Goodnight Comics, which all the early releases. That's that's pretty much every day for this week. And I'm looking forward. I'll get to see Fiora in person at Crystal Mountain PonyCon next weekend. So all you fine folks in Utah, if you're coming, I'll look forward to seeing you there. Also,
I have 6 panels at that con. When will I have time to see you again?
I'll be in the vendor hall. You can always swing by. Well, wait, we have tables together.
Oh yeah, we're right next to each other, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
GG.
You're forgetting me. And I just want to remind everyone, I'm getting paid by Golden Fox.
Really?
Moon Knight?
I can't. Wait a second. Okay, sorry. So I've been Moon Knight, and I'll see you all later. I'm going to be uploading some reviews because of the episodes. I actually watched some of the Australian episodes, but don't tell anyone. But there's, I think we also have an important question that it's for Silver Quill. Is it secret recipe or is it going to be crispy?
To find out, I guess you'll just have to bite me.
Oh!
Thank you for the visualization. I will have
No one wants to bite that. Nobody.
I do have an
Will that
announcement
be
and an event for you
cannibalism?
guys in stream at the end of this. So Master Code, you're next.
All right. Well, guys, that's it for today. Until next time, MC out.
And this has been the Pizza Pony. As always, you can find me making new comics almost every week on DeviantArt. Also, catch up on my Twitter, my Tumblr for other stuffs, and just overall live long and propane.
I just imagine that a BDSM specialist says, "I sell propane and propane accessories."
Silence your face!
PG, guys. Jesus.
We're actually
Anyway.
PG-13.
Golden Fox.
Thank you. You can find me on my main channel, which is shortly like Golden Fox 17, but I also call it Golden Fox Pictures, with a secondary channel called the Golden Fox Stream, where I stream on Twitch and keep recorded episodes on the secondary channel where I do Let's Plays.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you can find all these wonderful people in the description below. Tonight at midnight Eastern Standard Time, in about 3.5 hours, I will be streaming live fanfiction writings based on suggestions in chat. They are rated E or T. There is no sex in my fanfictions, but hey, they apparently are good because I keep getting yelled at for saying they're bad. In the meantime, there is another Brony broadcast going on, and I would like it very much if the chat would join me in rating them. So I'm putting a link in chat right now, and if you are on YouTube chat or Twitch chat, the hashtag will be new roundtable bomb. You just go to that particular it's the Barcast, by the way, guys. You just go to their streaming site and type in the hashtag in chat to say you were there, and that is about it. Basically, we're throwing our audience at them at the end. In the meantime, does anybody else want to get the final word before I press the big red button?
Pudding.
Mary Quill.
Ich bin ein Berliner.
I'm getting KFC after this podcast is over.
All right.
What?
Good night, everyone.
KFC for everyone.
Bye.
Because every
Peace.
fandom needs a critic.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.
Laters.
Bye. Bye.